I did.
There you go.
Thank you.
Yep.
Why would I think it's not on the right side?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
What does Lindsay know?
Oh my gosh, how are you doing?
I'm good.
How did your meeting go?
This morning?
Did you have a big one today?
Or are you talking about with Carter?
Sorry.
Or Thursday?
I should be more specific.
The speaker system?
Yeah. I'm just making sure it works.
Yeah.
Mixed.
I mixed that. It was interesting that they had the mayor was all for it. The clerk staff, which
Okay.
was excited about, the benefits, how it's been running.
Oh.
Then they put the IT guy who has to fix the conflict. So,
Are you sure?
internal resolution, the system.
We'll get the school colors on today.
First day.
First day, how'd it
First day
go?
with children.
No crisis? Or?
You know, the first day is always the easiest.
Sure.
Second and third day, you gotta
Or just like unthought of problems, maybe.
Right, yeah,
still finding
Yeah.
our footing on
Yeah,
the
so,
first day, so.
yeah, it was, but like, I can relate to the IT guys'
Sure.
perspective, like.
Oh, yeah.
If it's owning your time to fix it, that's frustrating.
Well, right. So somebody can hear jingle bells,
No, I
understand.
wrote my, kind of my notes and I can go over that.
Good.
If you want to.
Yeah, I was just curious. I felt that it was.
Garner, I'm sure has his perspective too, cause.
Oh, were you sitting on that call as
Yeah,
well?
yeah.
Oh, good. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
so,
Good.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of mixed,
Yeah.
so I think they're going, I mean, they are going with a different provider to try to resolve this problem.
Wow.
So the fact that they're doing this means that they're not shutting it down.
Yeah.
That it makes them stand out as unique,
Sure.
it's just they wanna fix the IT problem.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
But you always have folks that are, against it too, it's just like music or the type of music, so. Licensing aspects, so there's just, they give us some interesting things, so I have to pull out my notes, cause.
Oh, no worries.
Only
I
fit
just.
so much in my head, so.
No,
that's
it's,
why
I was gonna
write it
say,
down,
we'll
so.
just get through council and then.
Yeah, thanks for doing this.
Hey, we'll, chit chat later.
Sure.
Lovely though.
Well, that trail is beautiful in your district. I finally made the whole run of that little, gazebo or whatever, right by lot one. That's really nice, that view on top there. Excellent,
We're not used to elevation.
Right,
So
yeah, yeah.
I'm a little bit worried.
Was that hillside thing?
Thank you.
Walking out the garbage. And that's been closed for so many years now, right? So, unlikely to fall into an abyss of garbage.
I wouldn't say
Impossible.
I wouldn't say impossible because that's unsteady. If you have like gas bubbles and stuff.
Ring twice.
I mean, it does shift around into this.
Well, it's a great use of that playing. Yeah, I mean, and then with super tall trees, walking through the, it's a terrible thing, hot dog looking things, oh my gosh. Cattails, oh my god. I can think of hot dogs. Hot dogs on a stick. I feel so dumb right now.
Well, there are a couple varieties,
But anyways, super tall, so I did find like a tire in there, so I don't know if it was,
like a full size tire.
yeah, full size
Like a
tire.
bike is yesterday.
No car tire, yeah. So someone like, either it was part of, I don't know if they use tires to clean it.
Every store, like.
What, did it walk away? Did it get loose or something? I don't know if that's part of it. Yeah, it was in that area. But it wasn't tied to anything.
Not with me. So,
It was ever part of it.
Oh, I was gonna say,
I didn't hear anything.
Just normal stuff. With pictures. Yeah, so it's cool to see. I know it's been several years in the making.
Because there's no part of the way that does that, or in fact, there's there are some in Wisconsin, in Madison, Milwaukee, and lacrosse. Or not lacrosse, sorry.
Coffee shop ready to go yet.
Oh gosh, over by Green Bay, there's one over there too. Yeah, but none around here. Yeah, and their office is a couple miles away downtown.
Oh, yeah, no, no, no,
Yeah.
I'm just thinking across the board, but it's federal government, so it's.
Walking through.
Yeah.
That's the same question I have. So that's why
Yeah.
comparing, we don't really have something like that. It feels like you're walking through a state park or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and the entrance at the playground is so nice, and there's
Yes.
just kind of what you need happening over there, and
Well, well done. Very nice.
they did a good job. Hello.
Want to see a new resolution?
Fine.
So this is the resolution that I'll pass with the
Thanks for the
with the public hearing
Yeah.
of court improvements. This came to me from Mr. Jan. You know, it's the petition for the airport project, all the improvements. And it says airport owner
I know, I was just looking at that. We get to sell us something out of the fifties.
Right.
blank and blank. He
First thing I
authorized
opened
to
up
sign
to
all the improvements.
like another packet of pictures.
Who would be the mayor? Public Works Director? He's on here, yeah, but he'll be here. I assume he'll be here, but. And then city administrator. And these go to, wants a full body resolution. Hello, how are you? Okay, some questions about this airport. Mr. Jeremy has Yeah, the very, sometimes the FAA is very particular that all of these items sometimes are
Yes.
before this resolution passes.
Is there anything specific, or do we gotta go?
Yeah.
That's what I asked him, he's like.
I've never really looked up,
Well,
data
I
on
mean, I guess so.
the quality and the life of
I
it.
Usually manufacturer.
So,
Appreciate just on the that notion alone.
Yeah.
Kind of tells you.
Tells you, right.
So
I guess it would maybe depend too on the,
Yeah.
how valuable it is.
right.
Because then, it's desirable, but.
All right, in this agreement at the very end. So it's talking about the sponsorship runs the airport and be it further resolved that the blank be
Oh,
authorized.
there, Mike, how are you?
How about yourself? Oh, the sailing days over?
the what?
Sailing days? You never did get my iPad to work all.
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah, all right.
So get another month.
Well, I
Yeah.
could.
Last year, I was
Computer at all?
literally
finally got on the
winterizing my
laptop.
boat, and it was
Can you do it on my
so
phone? Can you do that?
Oh, wow.
bad.
I don't know what
I
to.
waited a little while,
Keeping on things.
but it was one of those things.
Hiding
where it's like,
information from you.
next Wednesday is gonna be 65 degrees, and that next
Right.
Tuesday,
Did you bring
another
it?
65
You gonna
degrees.
Counselor Ladine, can you hear us okay online? Nick, you're still on mute. Let us know if you can hear me okay.
Gotcha.
Thank you very much.
Maybe just text him or email him and ask him if he can come in and consult with and bring your stuff.
Maybe shut it off.
Good evening, everyone. It is 6:30 p.m., so I will call the Tuesday, September 3rd, 2024 meeting of the Superior Common Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Ledeen.
Here.
Counselor Van Sickle. Here. Counselor Moffett.
Here.
Counselor Sweeney. Here. Counselor Fennessy. Here. Counselor Elm. Here. Vice President Ludwig. Here. Counselor Herrick. Here. Counselor Johnson. Here. And President Grasky.
We have a quorum.
Item 3.1 is a public hearing to notify the public of improvements, solicit public feedback, and approve a resolution for the Richard I. Bond Memorial Airport and request of state and federal funding by petition to the Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics.
Prior to the opening of the public hearing, we have to read a pretty significant part of this resolution to ensure it's in the record. So I'll ask the clerk to read the relevant parts of the resolution, and then I will open the public hearing.
By the sponsor, that a petition for the federal and/or state aid in the following form is hereby approved. The petitioner desiring to sponsor an airport development project with federal and state aid or state aid only in accordance with the applicable state and federal laws respectively represents and states that number one, that the airport which is desired to develop should generally conform to the requirements for a general aviation type airport as defined by the Federal Aviation Administration. Number two, the character, extent, and kind of improvements desired under the project are as follows. Replace automated weather observation station, AWOS, airfield pavement maintenance, crack seal pavements, acquire snow removal equipment, install approach lighting system, rehabilitate runway 4-22 and runway 14-32, including lights and signs, construct aircraft storage hangar, develop hangar area, construct apron expansion, taxi line extension, replace, install navigational aids including PAPISs, REILS, wind cone, construct parallel taxiway including lighting, construct snow removal equipment storage building, clear and maintain runway approaches as stated in Wisconsin Administration Code Trans number 55 and any necessary related work, and master planning ALP update. And number three, that the airport project which your petitioner desires to sponsor is necessary for the following reasons: to meet the existing and future needs of the airport.
Is there objection to me opening the public hearing? If not, the public hearing is now open. Does anybody wish to speak in the public hearing? Please.
Comments just to make sure everything's on the record. This is we did this a few years back, councilors and mayor. This is very much about FAA process, so you'll see very particular things happening, notices, posting in the paper exactly 10 days before. It's a state statutory requirement that we go through this process. Now, there's nothing in this petition that says we have to do any of the projects, nothing that says that we are obligated to do any of these projects. It's if any of these projects were to come up, we have the opportunity for funding. If funding were to become available, they have to be part of the petition. Otherwise, we would have to go back through the petition process with the FAA, but this puts us in an eligible position. A couple of the projects we already have in the works, but because it's a new petition, they want to have them on the new petition, like the AWOS, the automated weather observation station is old, and that's going to be replaced. We already have funding in place from the BOA, and that's an 95% BOA to 5% city match. So we get a pretty good deal on that stuff through the BOA. I think that's all I got. And as part of the petition process, we have 10 days from this hearing. So other people, if somebody listening, when the minutes go out, you have till September 13th at the end of the day. You can contact the Public Works Department, email the city. It'll come to me and with any comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Does anybody else wish to speak in the public hearing? Does anybody else wish to speak to the resolution? Finally, does anybody wish to speak to the resolution regarding the petition to the Wisconsin Bureau of Aeronautics? Hearing none, the public hearing is now closed. I will entertain a motion to approve the resolution. The motion is by Councillor Elm. Who made the second? Councillor Johnson made the second. Councillor Moffat.
I have a question. I was just wondering about if we apply for and receive funds for any of the projects that are mentioned here, what are our obligations in terms of long-term operation in order to accept those funds? I know when I was on the Plan Commission in Duluth, there were obligations if we received federal funds that we had to operate facilities for a certain number of years in order to, or we'd have to return funds. Just kind of curious because accepting funds could potentially lock us into a long-term commitment, and I'm just kind of curious what that commitment is.
Mr. Janig, I'll ask you to answer the question, but also if I could expand on it. Any grants we would receive would also require further acceptance from the City Council. We'd have to bring those grants back as well, which would have more detailed agreements for the specific grant.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct, exactly. I believe it's a 20-year on those. So anything we've currently done and anything we have going forward, it'd be that 20-year revolving cycle. I know that a airport close to us, I want to say Solon, bought a tractor through this program, and it was almost impossible to sell, so they ended up trading it to another Wisconsin airport. It's either that or basically it goes back to the state and they have to pay it back. So like I said, I think it's a 20-year payback on those.
I'm sorry, was your question, Councillor, do these grants obligate us, if we apply and win one, are we obligated to operate the airport for 20 years?
No, we can shut it down. We'll have to pay back that in some way, shape, or form, which may be liquidating that tractor or that AWAS or whatever it is.
We would owe the grant back.
Right. So there would be a payback on it, not necessarily operating.
Further questions, Councillor? Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approval of the resolution, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 4.1 is the approval of the August 20th, 2024 regular council meeting minutes.
Motion is by Councillor Herrick, second by Councillor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 6.1 is report from Mayor Payne.
Good evening again, councillors. My only business on this part of the agenda will be the appointment of the new Public Art Commission. You'll remember this was the Culture, Events, and Public Art Commission. I believe most of these members are basically the same, but it is a smaller commission. So the reason for the delay here is the commission had some discussion about who wanted to stay on, who was ready to step off. And so these are the appointments that will fill the newly defined Public Art Commission. I will remind you again that on Monday, September 9th, there will be a public hearing in Superior for the rate case at the PSC. Superior Water, Light, and Power has applied for an increase to water, electric, and gas rates. And for the first time in, I think, a very long time, the PSC has agreed to hold the hearing here, the public hearing here. So you'll be able to speak directly to the PSC as well as your constituents at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. in the room 270. That's the Doug Finn room just across the hall there. And then the only other update I have for you, the budget is coming together fairly quickly. I'm going to say this out loud to try and give myself a strict goal. I'm hoping to give a preliminary presentation at the next council meeting. I will definitely not be presenting the budget for adoption at the next council meeting, but I'd like what's pretty close to the final form. And we have everything that we need to do that right now. It's really just a matter of putting it all together. In other words, we have pretty much all of our revenue numbers. We think we know what the expenses are. I have several more meetings with department heads, but it's an ambitious goal. There's quite a bit of work left to do, but I think general fund, CIP, we could have something that looks like a draft. I can't absolutely promise it, but that is my goal. What I can tell you is you won't get even the slightest preview before that meeting. I'm just hopeful to get that conversation started in a more low-pressure environment so you can have that budget, play with it, work with it for 2 weeks before we even consider adoption at the first meeting in October. What I will tell you about it is The budget's in the black already. We're not going to have any trouble balancing it. We should be able to make some new expenditures, but there's no windfall of cash this year. So this will be something of a tight budget. Could even risk being boring, but we'll have the kind of things that you've come to really expect. I will be recommending a wage increase. We obviously won't be eliminating any positions, nor do I think we'll have to reduce any CIP expenditures. That is all good news. I just don't want anybody thinking there's going to be gigantic purchases without bonding, which is a very large question. So it is possible that we add in bonding and do some of the very large expenditures that we've talked about, but that would be a big decision. Any questions I can answer about it now without me actually telling you what the numbers are? If not, I'll ask the clerk to read the appointments. I'll ask the clerk to read them all, but if anybody wants them separated, just let me know.
All right, the recommendation is to appoint to the Public Art Commission Molly Gilbertson for a 1-year term expiring September 2025.
Sorry, hit that again.
Appoint Molly Gilbertson for a 1-year term expiring September 2025. Appoint Lindsay Grasky for a term expiring April 2025. Appoint Heidi Blunt for a 1-year term expiring September 2025. To appoint Carolyn Nelson Kavayets, thank you, for a 1-year term expiring September 20th, 2025, and Paul Robertson for a 1-year term expiring September 2025.
Motions by Councilor Grasky, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of approving all 5 appointments, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 7.1 is the business of the Human Resources Committee with a meeting held on August 19th. Is there a report from the chair?
Yep, thank you. Just briefly, so at the last council meeting, I mentioned that the Human Resource Committee was in the process of overhauling and adopting a new job description policy, number 3.03. And just as a short recap, the existing policy was adopted, I think, in 1996 or 1993, so about 30 years ago, and it was adopted whole cloth. And we were finding that at times the title didn't elicit the information you were actually looking for under that title category. So we overhauled the format, the typeface, and just refined some of those prompts to make sure that the information we were asking for was clearer and able to be delivered under that title category. We also did some pretty heavy editing for syntax and consistency and concision. And finally, we integrated some funding transparency. And what I mean by that is we included the source of where that position is being funded. So whether that's from the general fund or from enterprise fees. We also made an effort to integrate some of the values that would be more consistent with the mission of those departments and program policies, in just trying to identify how every position fits into the larger organization. So just, we spent a couple of months getting to the bottom of that, so I just want to say thanks for everybody that helped on that effort. The Human Resources Committee also approved the job description of a network operations analyst to work on more of the, I think, wiring and infrastructure of Connect Superior. Network operations analyst. And again, we just approved that job description. I don't think we have any business. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any. Thank you.
If there are no questions for the chair, we'll move on. I'm sorry. Who? Oh, Councilor Herrick.
Yeah, just one. Thanks. Just one question. On the one job description, unfortunately, I wasn't able to bring up my material on my iPad this week. But anyhow, on the one job description where it says a 4-year degree, and then or job experience. So the 4 degree, is that just wide open? You could just have a 4-year degree, or is it a 4-year degree in a certain field?
That's a good question. Originally, it stated a 4-year degree without a qualifier or a topic, so we clarified that exact clause to be related. So I think it gives an example of stormwater or utility or a related field. So we put that qualifier on the degree and then emphasize the relevant experience with that as well.
All right, thank you.
Are there any other questions? If not, now we can move on.
Item 7.3 is the business of the Finance Committee with a meeting held on August 28th. Is there a report from the chair?
Yes, thank you. We had 2 items for discussion, and the main item, which we will need action on, was the Maugusten Mike landfill closure and long-term care. There's 2 separate funds that go into that, and we had a rather extensive report, I guess, from the finance director, from Tom Anderson, and I know Todd played a role in that. So we had we have to keep funding it because the state reviews it every, I thought it was 5 years, but there's some period that they review it, and they came back, and so we have to seek an update with funds, okay? But it is, it will be fully, to the best of our ability and what the DNR has told us, it will be funding, both of the funds will be funded up to date, including inflation. So that's the piece of action that we need. I think Director Reinhardt worked with Tom Anderson, and so I'm completely confident we've got this down because there's a lot of money going to have to be put away, and so we've done it prudently, and we feel we're in good shape. I don't know exactly if it's determined when it's going to close yet, but I think probably in 26. But I don't know if there's a definite date yet. Maybe somebody knows. But anyway, we're on target. We set aside the money, and this that we're asking for tonight will keep us where we should be right now. So the other item was, and it doesn't need any action, not the most exciting thing, but we're going through our policies and procedures, updating them and changing them so that we have a deadline date of the end of next year. So I think we will meet that pretty easily. But it's not the most exciting thing, but it has to be done. And every time we do it, we find something that can be improved. So that's why we go through it. So I'll go back to the clerk to ask for the recommended vote, please.
The recommendation is to approve the contributions and plans for the Maugusten Mike landfill closure and long-term care escrows.
The motion is by Councilor Elm, second by Councilor Herrick. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 8.1.1 is the business of the Plan Commission with a meeting held on August 21st. Is there a report from the chair?
Yes. My report is similar to Councilor Sweeney's, wherein we have one item of business, but the vast majority of the meeting was taken up by our preliminary discussion on the zoning code update. So if you'll remember, about 3 years ago now, we created the comprehensive plan, which is the precursor to the zoning code. In that case, we created a steering committee of citizens, community members, some experts to construct that plan. In the case of the zoning code, the Plan Commission will be the steering committee. So we started that work at the last meeting, but it's not limited to us. There's going to be considerable public outreach throughout this entire process, and we're working with our consultants, the same consultant that you'll remember that helped us create the comprehensive plan. And we gave them, I think, some pretty clear instructions that we're going to try and make the public engagement sessions as engaging as possible. The zoning code risks being a boring subject, but had you attended that meeting, you would know that it's very much not a boring subject. It's one of the most significant policies we're going to pass maybe in any of our time here at the Superior City Council. So I guess what I'm saying is we won't be discussing the zoning code at every Plan Commission meeting. Pay attention to those agendas, though, because every other, at least, we will be talking about it. We're going to be talking about neighborhood design, neighborhood development, our future plans and goals for those neighborhoods, for our city as a whole. And those are going to be very influential decisions that we're making and ultimately recommending to the council. At some point, I would encourage every councilor to engage with that process. We will try to do neighborhood meetings. In fact, I think that's one of the bare minimum outreach things we're going to do is neighborhood meetings. So make sure to attend those. Speak for your neighborhood. Tell us a story about your neighborhood so that we can help that, help convert that into laws and regulations and policies that will guide the development of those neighborhoods for years to come. The only item of business we have is yet another vacant to value construction site. It's a vacant lot on Iowa Avenue where a developer proposes to build a home. So unless there are questions about the Plan Commission, zoning code, anything, I will ask your pleasure on, well, you better read the recommendation.
The recommendation is to waive the land sale process and approve New York Avenue Properties LLC's application to the vacant to value new construction program to develop the property located at the 1600 Iowa Avenue block.
Motions by Councilor Johnson, second by Councilor Sweeney. Is there discussion? Councilor Allen.
We're given some papers regarding this tonight. I'm not sure. Obviously, there must be some change from the agenda packet or some addition.
There was no change to the agenda packet. It came to me from Ms. Grandlin in the planning department saying that it didn't make it into the packet.
Okay. Okay.
This is all the same documentation the Plan Commission recommended.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the application for the vacant value property at 1600 block of Iowa, I'm sorry, Councilor Herrick.
I'm sorry to come in at the last second. So do you know, I didn't get a chance to look at the floor plans or the plans for this new. Is there going to be any basement put in this particular area? Reason why I'm bringing that up is because there was some new development back on Ohio Avenue where a lot of homes, their walls became cracked because of the type of work they had to do to build these particular homes there. So that was off of 16th in Ohio. So I was just wondering if there's going to be some, for lack of a better word, rough construction in regards to creating, any type of vibration that may damage homes in the area.
First, Mr. Cirque, I think, is online. The way I'm reading the plans, I don't see a basement, but can you answer that?
It's on a slab, Mayor.
So
So there will be no basement.
I'm not entirely sure I followed all of your concerns, Councilor. Does that satisfy your concern? You're hoping there would not be a basement?
No, I was just wondering if they were going to do any type of, rough construction. I say is, just hopefully doing it in a manner where it will not damage any of the homes. Because like I said, I've gotten calls on a project that was just built on 16th and Ohio in that area, where some of the walls, people ran into their walls shaking and cracking and things like that.
From nearby construction?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, right across the street, matter of fact. So
that is an issue that I think our building inspection can pay attention to, but I'll alert them to the complaint that you've had.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Van Sickle.
I had a similar question, and I think it's just more general, but when we typically build on vacant to value proposals, is there already sewer and water infrastructure there, or is that built into their costs, or how does that work?
It's all built into their cost. Largely the point of vacant value is that the city incurs no cost except to give away the land. So the cost we're losing is we're not getting anything for the land, which has theoretically been for sale for a very long time. So every lot is different. I don't know about this one. I'd be very surprised if the 1600 block of Iowa doesn't have utilities close enough to connect relatively affordably. Mr. Cirque, do you know the answer? It has utilities or no?
Sewer and water are there. They will be responsible for hooking up their laterals to that.
Thank you.
Councilor Sweeney.
I didn't see this, but I may have missed it. Is there a time frame on this that they have to do this?
Yes. I'm going to look that up unless Mr. Cirque can shout it out before I find it.
I couldn't. I must have read over
Typically,
it.
Counselor, it is a year. They have to begin or get a permit a year within signing the development agreement. These folks, though, I believe, will be starting here in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
You satisfied, Councilor? Or would you like me to defend the yes? Okay, thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Councilor Johnson.
Thanks. Trying to find the button there. How many vacant value programs have we transferred from vacant properties to date?
Mr. Cirque, do you know the exact number? I know it's almost all of them. We're finishing up, at least in the conforming lots.
Yeah, I think we've done over the last couple of years, probably 6 or 7. I believe we have 3 or 4 left, and then we're going to probably start venturing into maybe some lots that are non-conforming, so the 37s and a halves that we have, and then looking also into the 25-footers. So there will be a few more, but in this program we have about 3 or 4 lots left.
That's great. One other question I have, maybe, and kind of relating to that, I hadn't really thought of that until you kind of mentioned the non-conforming lots. Is there stuff that we've learned along the way that you could, I mean, it's kind of an in-depth question, so if you want to give a short answer, I get it. But is there things that we've learned along the way with this vacant value program that we might do differently with as we continue this into different areas in those non-conforming lots?
Mr. Cirque, lessons learned?
Well, I think it's gone fairly smoothly. I know that, some of the older lots that we have given away did have some more soil corrections than what we thought were going to be needed, just because of the type of raising that was done to the place. This house you're approving tonight does not have those issues, so maybe a little more investigation on that end. But other than that, I think it's been a pretty successful program. I think the council approved at the last meeting another home on John and 28th Street, which that'll be a very nice home as well. So I can't really think of any. We are going to start running out of lots here, and I think our next goal will be to start kind of maybe working a little harder with the county on some lots maybe that are on the fringes for this program, but we'll be working with the Plan Commission on that.
I think the biggest lesson I've learned, I expected it to be a success. This program and its sister program, the Vacant House Recycling Program, in both cases we're talking about distressed properties that nothing was happening. Vacant House Recycling Program, houses that were literally crumbling in the ground and would have needed to be demolished at considerable expense to the city, but nobody would invest in them or build on these lots. These lots have been for sale for a very long time. Every once in a while you get a bite on one of them, but on the whole, development wasn't happening. And then by merely wiping out the cost, eliminating just that much overhead, we're not talking about a ton of appraised value on these lots here. That was enough to help developers. Developers, probably too strong words, home builders build houses. A couple of people have built their homes on vacant to value lots. And there's almost no, I can't think of any downside. These are vacant lots that are now going on the tax rolls or expanding neighborhoods. People live in them. That's new construction in the city that's increasing the value of the city. And if you're paying attention to the national news outlets right now, not a lot of communities are seeing new house construction. It's just not happening because interest rates are high. It's very difficult to do. There are a lot of regulatory barriers, and this was just one barrier we knocked down. And the lesson I guess I've learned is I want to go looking for other barriers to new construction to see if there's any way to facilitate development. I'd also wonder if maybe we need to be a bit more picky if it's this successful and there is an appetite. Should we be leaning further into policies and decisions that make these properties more affordable for people in the long run? Sorry, there's a bit of a speech, but you asked. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, the question is whether to approve the application for vacant to value program located at the 1600 block of Iowa Avenue. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Moving on to item reports without recommendations. Are there any further committee or commission reports to be made?
Councilor Graski.
Hi. Okay. I'd love to give a report on the Tourism Development Commission. I have handed you all out a packet, but I got a little report here I'd like to read. So I'm just going to start off. There's a presentation that's going to gear up too, so the public can see that as well. And you guys can see it up there too. So I thought I would take the time to give the council a full report of the Tourism Development Commission and our progress over the past year. Our most recent data from Swim Creative via the Star Tribune has been impressive to say the least. I will highlight a few key points. I've included some materials in your handout, and the full documents I have pulled them from are available in the Agenda Center or can be requested through the Chief of Staff's office with Chief Scherf. We have received over 806,624 impressions from our spring and summer campaigns with a 0.10% click-through rate. The industry average is typically around 2 to 5%. From our targeted emails between March and June, We had 63,489 opened emails and 7,244 total clicks. This results in an open rate of 21.5%, which is over 10% above the average for comparable markets. We garnered 19,973 search engine marketing impressions between March and June with a 9.5 click-through rate. Google's stated average is 2 to 3%. Our social media marketing efforts are also performing exceptionally well with 18,578 total clicks and a 5.44% click-through rate. This significantly exceeds the average of 0.5 to 0.75%. For our video marketing, we streamed ads on YouTube and television apps. Nearly 57,000 people watched these ads to completion, giving us a completion rate of 99.16%. Over 10,500 people would watch our ads to completion on YouTube alone, exceeding YouTube's campaign guarantee of 5,000. We are outperforming on every platform, which is like all previous campaigns thus far with Swim Creative. Additionally, we have collected a significant amount of data throughout this process. Our marketing team can now use this data to adjust our strategies and continue growing our market. Our partnership with the Superior Tourism Information Center located within the Richard I. Bong Veterans and Historical Center is also thriving. They have rebranded to match the Gotta Be Superior branding, incorporating our colors and logo on their walls. They have successfully elevated Superior's profile by securing placements in multiple regional publications, including the Lake Superior Circle Tour and the Lake Superior Travel Guide. In 2024, the desk served over 9,038 customers and collected $1,600 in grants aimed at travel centers. The center has also taken on the responsibility of keeping the Gotta Be Superior website up to date with local events and new businesses. They promptly reach out to new businesses to inform them of how Gotta Be Superior can help promote their services. The Superior Tourism Information Center has worked closely with city staff to update marketing materials, highlight our local restaurants, lodgings, museums, and other amenities. The desk has welcomed visitors from 40 out of 50 states, with 222 international visitors, including 957 from Canada. This is a significant increase from last year's 278 Canadian visitors. We look forward to continuing this partnership and expand the tourism's desk's involvement with the Gotta Be Superior brand. Finally, let's discuss our financials. In 2023, we collected $992,564.49 in hotel motel tax, an increase of 9.76% from 2022. This year, we have also projected to see a significant rise. Our collections have been increasing quarter over quarter, with no decline since the implementation of the Tourism Commission and our partnership with Swim Creative. The Tourism Commission recently has approved a 3-year extension to Swim's contract based on the successes I have shared with you today. We look forward to sharing our progress with the results from our winter campaign, and I will report again in the spring when we have the final figures for this year. Thank you. I appreciate you going through those numbers with me. If you have any questions, I'm super happy to answer them.
Other questions for the chair? Councilor Fennessy.
I just had one question on the visits to the visitor center. Are those numbers specific visits to the visitor desk, or are they a combination between visits to the desk and like paid entrance, or like paid tickets to tour the Bong?
These would be numbers that have been specifically to the information center, where we receive. That's who we work with and contract with.
Okay, thanks.
Any further questions for the chair? Hearing none. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 10. Are there any other committee or commissions? Nope. Item 10.1 in new business, I am recommending approval of miscellaneous licenses.
Motion is by Councilor Herrick, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.2, I'm recommending approval of a one-day cabaret license for Dodge's East End Tavern for an event on September 8th.
Motion is by Councilor Herrick, second by Councilor Sweeney. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.3, I'm recommending approval of a temporary Class B beer license application for a commemorative Air Force Lake Superior Squadron for the first annual garage sale event located at 4804 Hammond Avenue to be held 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. September 21st.
It's a motion by Councilor Ludwig, second by Councilor Elm. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 10.4, Public Works Director Janigo is recommending approval of a resolution setting a public hearing on October 1st for adoption of final resolutions to pave the alleys in 2025 and assess costs to abutting property owners.
Motion is by Councilor Elm, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.5, Public Works Director Janigo is recommending awarding a contract with Chippewa's Concrete Services for the Tower Avenue pavement repair project at a total cost of $1,009,079.25.
Motion is by Councilor Van Sickle, second by Councilor Ludwig. Councilors, you may have seen me talk about this before, and we're about to talk quite a bit more about it in the weeks to come. This is what I guess I would call phase 2 of a preemptory Tower Avenue project. Ultimately, this project should belong to the DOT, who will get to it eventually, but I'm getting really worried about them getting that done in time for the bridge to close. Furthermore, you know, major parts of Tower Avenue, especially to the northern section around Belknap and just south of Belknap, are still very much Main Street Superior. It's a residential neighborhood, a business district, and I think we have to consider and strongly consider significant new design elements, much like we did in North Tower. Those are obviously a pretty significant success. However, the road is pretty rough. So phase 1 was just doing some patching, some aggressive patching, but just patching at the beginning of the summer. And now this will be concrete repair. This is not repairing all of the concrete. It's select areas south of 28th Street, and it will remove the worst of the concrete and just replace blocks there. So it should create a nice smooth driving surface. Won't be the prettiest road you've ever driven on, but it's going to be smooth and should prevent much worse damage over if we get another rough winter. Phase 3 is the big one, though, and that I hope to do as early as next year, but it could be as late as 2026. And I think I'll look to agendize that on a future Public Works Committee meeting, because that's a much more involved discussion. We should look at design plans and talk about it, but pay attention to when that comes, because you may want to, or just schedule a meeting with me and we can talk about it in my office too. But I'm starting to make some pretty big decisions on that project. That will be focused more on the 28th to Belknap section, where we will do more concrete repair, do a form of surfacing, but most importantly, redesign. And the plans we're looking at right now maintain all of the traffic capacity, so 4 lanes, but we are looking at removing most of that center turn lane that goes like the whole body of the road, start controlling the speed of traffic a little bit, increase pedestrian safety, and just make it look a little bit nicer. That's what was most effective for Tower. So that's a later question. That's not what's in front of you today. This is just fix this thing up to drive on it the winter. I just wanted you to know that's a lot of project coming. It is in the CIP for a couple million. It will probably need a little bit more to do this right, and we will still need DOT to come back several years in the future and do quite a bit more, but this should get us through bridge closure, I hope. That's the plan anyway. Just this seemed the most convenient place to tell you. Any questions about that or this project that's actually in front of you? Councilor Herrick.
Yeah, so all the funding is coming from the CIP and nothing from DOT, or?
Well, a lot of this funding is coming from the ARPA budget. We're really clearing out that ARPA budget.
Yeah,
but there is an allocation of, I think, $2 million in the CIP. And I'm sorry, as opposed, nothing is coming from DOT right now.
Okay.
But when I meet with DOT, it's always my very first ask. And those meetings have actually gone pretty well. They haven't, given me a briefcase of cash or anything yet, but they have said they're looking to try and find some creative ways to throw funding at our project, because we're actually taking kind of a lot of work that should be theirs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was my concern, that, that's part of the main highway, structure too, so.
We get quite a bit, though, by doing that, which is the reason that we're putting the money in. By spending it ourselves, we get total control of how that street looks.
All right, thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the $1 million plus for the Tower Avenue pavement repair project, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.6, Mayor Payne is recommending the approval of an ordinance to review and recommend changes to the City Code of Ordinances, Section 74-68, Superior Tourism Development Commission.
Motion's by Councilor Grasky, second by Councilor Ludwig. Again, just a brief introduction, councilors. We had a short discussion about the nature of the Tourism Commission a few weeks ago, about whether those items they approve, specifically contracts, must come or should come to the City Council. I had some previous discussions with the city attorney, so I asked him for a formal opinion to guide our decision-making in this. I believe you've all seen that opinion now. It ends with the recommendation to make this ordinance change, and so I am recommending it. He and I will answer any questions we can or entertain discussion. Councilor Fennessy.
I think if we're looking to clean this up and get us in compliance with the state statute and the way that we operate our tourism commission, I think there's probably a couple more items that we need to dive into, and it's probably better reserved for at a different time. But in the memo there, and I'll paraphrase, but you state that the tax is to be paid by the municipality. It's a quote from the state statute, but the tax is to be paid to the municipality, may not be retained by the municipality, but the municipality, us, we do retain the funds, don't we?
Do you mean the 70%? Do we retain them?
Yeah.
No, we forward them to a tourism commission.
But the city of Superior retains those funds. In fact, in the handout that was given to us, the funds right now are in the City of Superior Fund 823 for the Tourism Development and Commission.
Right, that's a dedicated fund, though, an enterprise fund.
But the City of Superior retains those. If it's not the City of Superior that's retaining those, who else retains those?
The Tourism Commission governs that. It's very similar to how a utility would work, where we are obligated to dedicate certain funds to a particular fund. So the City of Superior is 100% operating the wastewater fund, but that is an independent fund with its own governing statutes. Not an independent body per se, but it's an independent fund.
So it's the Tourism Commission that cuts the checks then?
Our finance department does that, but we do that for the library as well.
Okay, so going back to, so it's...
I think we do that for the library. That may not be correct. Apologies.
So it's our finance department that retains the funds, who's part of our municipality. I guess we can dive into this more, but I don't see how that's in direct compliance with the state statute. If we're the ones who are holding the funds, we're the ones who cut the checks, we're absolutely retaining those funds. That's in direct conflict of the state statute. And then also in the memo, you cite the publication from the Wisconsin League of Municipalities, where it's clarified that the update eliminates a municipality's authority to directly spend the room tax revenue. So help me understand how we're in compliance with that, because the way that I see it, we are directly spending the money on the room tax. The contracts, whatever contract it is, it's inked between the City of Superior and the other entity. That other entity, whether it's Swim Creative, Charlie Barron's, some of the others, it's a direct contract between the City of Superior and this other entity. The City of Superior then cuts the check to that other party. And so to me, that all signs point to the municipality directly spending those tax revenues.
Yeah, I simply don't agree. The Tourism Commission is making those decisions. The city is taking an action on behalf of the Tourism Commission, but the city itself makes financial decisions via the council. We can only expend money that the council's authorized or budgeted. And in this case, it's the tourism authorizing or budgeting it. We're just acting as an agent of the Tourism Commission. They are the decision-making body. How the check is actually, the person writing the check, Nick Reinhardt has no authority to write a check without being directed by the Tourism Commission.
I mean, it's releasing the funds, but it's also who that contract is with. I mean, when the contract is with the City of Superior, we're directly engaging in that that act and that that spending of the money. But so even if where the contract is inked between the city of Superior and these other entities, even if we don't need council approval for it, those contracts still belong to the city of Superior, thus still belong to the general public, right?
Say that question one more time, please.
Do the contracts belong to the public? Should the public have access to these contracts because the contract is inked between the city of Superior and these other entities?
If I understand your question correctly, the answer is, do you mean the physical paper, the actual contracts themselves?
No, just have access to the contract.
Oh, yeah, they would be public records, absolutely. The Tourism Commission is still a public body.
And so they should be posted in the meeting minutes? Or would one have to do an open records request to get that contract?
I mean, both are acceptable. We would have to respond to open records requests, and if there's a packet prepared, whatever we have for the packet, we put on the agenda. The agendas have to be posted publicly.
Mm-hmm. And so the contracts, should the contracts be part of the agenda? And
that's what I
memorialized
typically do when I work on a packet. Typically, that would be part of the packet. If you're asking, can they vote on a contract just because it's not in a packet in advance? The answer to that is still yes. I mean, open meeting law merely requires you publish an agenda that says what you're likely to talk about.
No, that wasn't my question. So I'm trying to get a picture of what this is going to look like moving forward. If we're going to eliminate the oversight from this body, then I'm just trying to figure out what that's going to look like moving forward. And I'm just wondering, should whether it's a contract with Swim Creative or a contract with Charlie Barron's or a contract with whoever, are those contracts, shall they be part of the agenda packet and part of the meeting minutes, memorialized in the agenda center like every other contract that we enter in is?
My opinion is that they should be. The Tourism Commission is obligated to follow open meeting law, and so they will have to publish. They'll have to follow those requirements. But I'm not in charge of the Tourism Commission. The Tourism Commission is in charge of the Tourism Commission, subject to their statutory rules. So if they are looking at an extensive contract for the first time and then just approving it right there, that's their prerogative. I don't think that's great governance, but I don't think they've done that either. My understanding is that they've reviewed everything that they've passed fairly extensively, and we're familiar with what they're voting on. But in terms of how shall their meetings be operated, in accordance with open meeting law and otherwise subject to the rules that they set for themselves. It's an independent body.
I think you're maybe overcomplicating my question and kind of dancing around the question. Should any contract between the Tourism Development Commission and another entity, will those remain memorialized in either the meeting agenda or the meeting minutes?
Are you following this? I don't know that I understand. Are you asking, are we going to post all the documents they've ever had?
No. Moving forward, if there was a new contract between Company A and the TDC, is that going to be memorialized in the meeting minutes or the agenda?
If there's an agenda packet, yes. I don't know that we take those down. The only editing I'm ever aware of that we do with agenda packets, if something's incorrect, we might change it in the packet. Minutes belong to the body, and the body has to make decisions what's in those minutes, but that's just a reflection of the action. I don't know that I'm following your question. Are you asking, are we posting things on the website?
Yeah, like the Public Works. If there's a contract between Public Works and another contractor, that contract is in the meeting agenda minutes, all of that, and is forever memorialized in the agenda center.
Yeah, I think the answer to your question is yes. I mean, I can't swear that every packet has worked the same across the whole city, but generally we put these packets up and we leave them be.
Okay, that was simple. Simple as it was. We have to see the irony here, where this Tourism Commission was formed to improve transparency and oversight. Yet now we're finding out that this commission is exempt from transparency and oversight.
Further discussion?
I would like to just point out that I think that this commission sets more of an example of transparency. It has actually public meetings that people can attend. I don't know what else you said about it, but I would defend that full-heartedly since the day this has started, and multiple counselors who are not even counselors now can probably vouch for that in comparison to what it was doing before. So I have to stick to that on that. I would find it to be more open and more subjected to the public knowing about it more than it ever has.
Any for Councilor Sweeney?
My question would be, if it's a contract and whoever, as the city, if something happens to that contract, who's liable? The city is liable for that, right? I'll ask Rock that.
Can you answer that?
Well, I mean, I guess we'd have to look at the language of the contract to the extent that the contract itself would address responsibilities and liabilities and obligations and conditions of default and whatnot. But yeah, the TDC is obviously a creation of the city council.
Right. That's where I'm coming from.
A third of its voting membership consists of city councilors currently. If you're asking, you know, who writes the check if we're successful?
No, I'm not asking that.
Okay.
I'm asking if there's a problem, a liability. We have a contract with XYZ company and for some reason something happens. So then they take us to court, and so where does that money, if we lose, it has to filter back to the city, right?
Well,
unless the contract is written as such, I heard you say.
I'm assuming that if there's a problem with a contract that involves the TDC, it's going to be we didn't pay our invoice on time or our check bounced or something like that.
Oh, whatever. I
so
can.
that money, if we were to be called upon to make someone with whom we had contracted whole, would almost certainly come from the money designated to the TDC from the room taxes.
Okay, that's good. Then that my follow-up question would be: let's assume we don't have enough money, then the city just has to increase the hotel motel tax. Okay. I guess I'm just thinking is some way the city is going to have to pay for something that may not be budgeted, and if they are low on funds for 1 year to the next.
Can I ask if the city were party to a suit, let's say one of our contractors, some creative, the Bong, if the Bong were sued for something related to tourism,
right.
they gave somebody directions that led them off a cliff, and they sued and they named the city a party to that suit, would our liability cover our defense? Or is that just too silly?
Yeah, I mean, there's no way for me to offer a yes/no answer to that hypothetical without, you know, crawling through the facts, looking at whatever document was in play when the tourist in question was invited to the visitor center and then given instructions or an opportunity to go on a hike that led him or her off of a cliff. Those details would be something I'd have to have an opportunity to look at if we're going to talk about liability.
But there must be a good practice, a best practice for that. So that's what I know that I could make up a hypothetical that you couldn't answer. I'm not looking for that. I'm just saying, if there's the best practice to create a freedom from liability, I don't think we probably, I don't know that, but it would seem to me we couldn't. I think we're part of that, but I don't know that, and I think that would be important to know.
Councilor Johnson.
So with the change in the language of the ordinance, effective today or tomorrow morning or whenever it's effective, would everything then prior to this ordinance taking place change need to be brought to the council?
Based on my audit, for lack of a better term, there hasn't been a contract recommended by the TDC that has been disapproved or nixed by the council. So to the extent that there might be any good news from some of this dialogue tonight, let it be that we haven't let this ordinance linger enough to have a clash between the council wanting to take apart a contract that was recommended by the TDC and the TDC wanting to advance that contract through. So I don't think there's no house cleaning to do in terms of going back to look at old contracts to see if we should question their validity.
Okay. And then maybe this is for the mayor. Are there other, or Frog, is there any other municipalities? I know was it Manitowoc that we kind of have modeled this system after, or one of them anyway? Are there other cities that have gone through this change as well? What are some of the other municipalities doing for their TDC ordinances, and how is that related to what we're doing here today?
When we created this ordinance, I looked at a number of other municipalities, most of them I think, that had tourism commissions, and all their ordinances were structured differently. What I've learned since is, nobody had the strongest understanding of this law at the time. We kind of joke it's a poorly written law, like just grammatically it's hard to follow, and so its meaning was hard to understand at first glance. That's why I needed a full legal opinion, and Frog didn't spit this out overnight. And so that alone was several years ago, I think 2021 or 2022. And so I don't know what they're doing now. I haven't gotten an update, but my impression, at least from the league, is that these are independent bodies regardless of how cities have structured their ordinances.
Back to the contract discussion real quick. Sweep Creative and the TDC just entered another 3-year agreement. That one did not come to the council, but it was prior to this ordinance change. Is that something that should have come to the council then? Because it was prior to the ordinance change?
Well, I don't think it should have, because to present it to the council as though it were something the council could either approve or disapprove would have been inconsistent with the state law, in my opinion. So I understand maybe wincing a little bit from the track record and then seeing that one not being brought before you for your approval. But had it been brought to you for your approval, and had you expressed an inclination not to approve it, I would have suggested that that would have been inappropriate under the statutes anyway.
Okay. And then lastly, with I guess maybe I'm trying to find where Councilor Fennessy was going, or piggyback off of that, because I think he was kind of onto something there, at least a little bit. Even without our approval or disapproval, if you may, of contracts or expenditures within the TDC, they're still going to be reflected in our council minutes, though, right? That all of their packets can still be a part of our public record, correct?
I would expect TDC minutes and packets to be A, part of the public record, and B, accessible by all 10 of you and anyone else for that matter who has an interest in the material. If you want to sort of insist on handling their minutes to a certain degree, they could submit them to the council by way of information.
Sure.
And I think we've all sat through many meetings, much like this one, where your TDC president is called upon to give a report to you, which I'm assuming is derived precisely from the last meeting that they had, or the last series of meetings that they had, depending on the timing of it.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Van Sickle.
Thank you. Just a couple of comments and then a couple of questions. I want to first just back up quickly to President Graske's report. Thank you for putting this together. I know that you have led this commission under a great deal of scrutiny and pressure, and I know that it's not easy, and your results here are impressive. So I just don't want to ignore the clear results here. And I just want to say I appreciate that work. And I think that in part TDC is open to this level of scrutiny, which is a good thing, because I don't know that that level of visibility was available before. So by making this commission, it has opened up those members to a great deal of criticism, and that's okay. I also want to just point out that, of course, the Public Works Committee, the Human Resource Committee, both regularly adopt policies that this body does not then approve. I talked about one earlier that we spent months crafting, and this body then did not approve that policy, for which we hire our employees from. So that's pretty common. And I would also then just ask, so the tourism tax is created and adopted by the municipality. And then that funding goes, so the tourism tax is created, and so is the business improvement district tax collection tool. Both of those mechanisms are creatures of the council, and the City of Superior, the Development Association as well. The City of Superior distributes those funds, and do we then approve the contracts that the BID, the Development Association, or the BID or the Development Association are funded through the tourism tax? Do we approve their contracts?
Well, the Development Association is an independent organization of which we are a member that we contribute money via ordinance, but in the other cases, no, we don't approve those contracts.
And the BID is a creature of the council, created by the council, and funded through a distribution from the city council.
Yes, it's a direct levy on the properties within the BID.
Okay, so if the Business Improvement District, but the Development Association is funded from the tourism tax. They get 15%, I don't know, they get a percentage.
Yes.
In ordinance.
From the 30% that the municipality retains.
Right, and then we distribute that to the Development Association. So if they executed a contract similarly with an organization or the BID, are we liable for those contracts?
I don't know. I wasn't able to answer the earlier question either, though.
Thank you.
Further questions or discussion? Hearing none, the question is on adoption of the ordinance affecting changes to City Code Section 74-68, Superior Tourism Development Commission. All those in favor of adoption, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 10.7, Councilor Moffett is recommending the approval of a memorandum of agreement with One Roof Community Housing for partnership with the Climate Justice Block Grant application process.
Thank you. So we've been working.
Councilor, actually, we should get this on the agenda. Would you like to move its approval?
Yeah, move approval, please.
The motion is by Councilor Moffett, second by Councilor Elm. Councilor Moffett.
Okay, so we're working through the grant process, trying to get the grant application in. My latest update is that I've heard that 17 communities have been funded. They're hoping to fund 150. So when we look at our stats as a community, we're right exactly the type of community that this grant program is trying to fund. And so I know some people think, well, this is a long shot, we'll never get the money. But actually, this program is made for communities like ours, and so I think this has been worth our time. When we submit this grant application, we're submitting these as a series of smaller project components, each with their own budget, so they'll have the opportunity to hopefully fund all of the projects, but they could potentially decide that one of the projects doesn't meet what they want to fund, and they would only fund some of them or something like that. So that's a possibility. One of those projects, though, is our affordable housing component. That's what we're talking about this evening. We are required, in order to apply, to have a nonprofit partner organization working with us as our statutory partner. And that's One Roof Community Housing. So we're here, the city staff has drafted this memorandum of agreement, and it's a preliminary document just explaining that if we get the grant funds for the affordable housing component, that we would be working with One Roof with those dollars. And so we're here to approve this memorandum of agreement this evening. If we receive the grant funds, there would be a more detailed contract on exactly how those funds are spent with One Roof at a later date. But essentially they didn't feel it, our staff didn't feel that it was really worth doing a detailed contract process right now at this point when we don't know if we have the funds or not yet. So this is just kind of helping us get that application in. So here to answer any questions, and I'm asking for your support this evening.
Any questions or discussion? Councilor Fennessy.
So you answered the first part of my question that for this we need to have a nonprofit partner, and then we would do the detailed contract, which is probably why it seems like this is there isn't a whole lot of teeth or like details or anything like that to it. What happens? Like what is the reason for just this right now? Then do we have to do this to go through like the next step of the application process to show that we've hitched our wagon to a nonprofit to be able to do that?
Yes, so this is just indicating that we are wanting to partner with One Roof Community Housing and do this affordable housing component in our project, and we would like them to be our partner, and they're confirming with this memorandum that they would like to receive those funds and be our partner and work on this project with us. That allows us to turn the application in.
Okay, and so if in the process, like right now, we're looking at One Roof, let's say next week, the week after, we find out that there's a different organization that we would rather partner with. I guess maybe this is more of a question for Frog, but does this memorandum of agreement really hold any weight at all to this right now? Is there any, like, if something else better came along where we don't even know how much we're getting, does this memorandum of agreement like bind us in any way, or is this just more of a formality going through the process?
Well, I think it binds us in plenty of ways. We have a number of obligations that are identified in this agreement, one of which is if it doesn't work out with One Roof to be our statutory partner, we have to recruit another one, and we have to vet them in a way that it satisfies all involved, that they meet all the criteria for being a statutory partner for a grant endeavor like this. So that, I don't want to suggest that there's no obligations or that it's real soft that way. We're signing on, from what I can tell, for some firm commitments. To your question, if something better came along, I guess what I'm hearing Councilor Moffitt say is we kind of have to demonstrate that we've got a statutory partner to go to the next step, which I'm guessing is what that company in Wyoming is helping us do, is they shepherd us through the grant writing process or the grant application process. So I'm guessing this does have to play out to some degree before we can be a player for, as your counselor indicated a few minutes ago, one of those 150 cities that's going to be funded through the CPA bank.
Yeah. Okay.
We can replace the statutory partner due to performance issues or other unforeseen circumstances, but that requires the approval of the EPA official assigned to our grant.
Okay. And are there any others out there like that that we would want to look at? I mean, I know one roof has been a solid nonprofit in Duluth, but are there any others that would compete for this role, or no?
There are three other agencies like this in Wisconsin. They're in Madison, Milwaukee, and Door County. There's no other regional qualified partner that can do this work with us. One Roof's been around for decades. They've got hundreds of houses, and a number of communities and cities have already partnered with them to do these kinds of projects. And so, being that their office is like probably 3 miles from here, it makes a lot of sense to bring them on board because they have the experience and the track record of working with a series of other communities in the region. This would be the first ones in Superior, but they have many others in the within a short driving range. So
okay, and then the last question I have, could you just kind of explain the difference? So in the contract, it continues to reference the EPA Changing Communities grant, but then in the on the agenda item, it's listed as the Climate Justice Block Grant application. Is it the same thing, or is it two different grants kind of woven together?
It's the same grant. It just has like the nickname that goes along with it, and so depending on which agency or who you're working with, they call it different names. But it's the same program.
All right, thank you.
It's a sub-award. Like you remember ARPA and SLFRF, same grant, just one is nested in a larger.
Sure.
Councilor Johnson.
This is probably asking too many questions for this specific one, but I guess I'm just kind of interested in maybe the next steps. And you answered a few of my questions today, so I just wanted to kind of answer those or ask those publicly too, though. Do we know when we're going to be getting the funds, if we get them?
I'm hopeful that we would maybe know by the end of the year, but it's the federal government, so it's very possible that could be delayed, and it will probably depend on how many applications they receive by the November deadline.
And you had mentioned that if we're really not trying to put something like this out for bid because of the hurry might not be the right word, but the timeliness of getting the application in. But I guess my question based on that is, how is One Roof going to benefit from our partnership? I'm guessing they're going to be allocating some of those grant funds to the overhead, the staffing, to support us. Is that kind of going to be the partnership there, or what does that look like for allocating those funds and supporting the staffing time that they would take to do that?
They're a nonprofit organization, and so they'd be meeting their mission, which is their goal. In addition, I'm sure this project could potentially allow them to purchase and offer like 25 to 30 homes in Superior, which I'm sure would be great to keep their staff busy for a while and things as well, their construction teams and stuff. But I don't think they have a lack of work now. So I think they just look at it in terms of being able to increase their impact in the community and meeting their mission. And for them, being able to expand into Superior and offer that their services over here and the land trust here is a big deal because they've been around for a long time. But we haven't had a funding mechanism to get the land trust going in Superior before this.
Okay, maybe I'll ask it a different way. That was helpful to know. But I guess maybe, is there, I'm sure there is, because it's a federal government grant, there's probably money, caps on money that you can spend for certain things, correct?
Typically 10% for administrative costs.
That's
for a federal grant. I can't confirm that that's a law right now or built into this grant. I've never seen a federal grant that allowed more than 10% for administrative costs.
Thank you.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, the question is on adoption of the memorandum of agreement with One Roof Housing. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Do we have any public comment? Not aware of any public comment or any further business. Mr. Ramos, welcome.
Good evening, Council. John Ramos, publisher of the Duluth Monitor. As you know, I attend a lot of your commission and committee meetings, and when I come to the regular Common Council meeting, I think that everybody does a really good job, the chairs of these committees and commissions, of apprising the public and their fellow councilors of what went on during their previous meeting. With one glaring exception, the Tourism Development Commission. What did we see tonight? We saw a slide talking about click-through rates and impressions, and that was it, as if nothing else happened at their previous meeting. I mean, now, especially now that they have been determined to be their independent entity, we heard the attorney say he would expect that they would deliver a report that explains everything that they did. Well, what did they do at their last meeting? They approved a $1.3 million marketing contract with Swim Creative. You wouldn't know it from the report from the chair. Wouldn't you think that would be something that somebody, the public and fellow councilors, would want to be apprised of? That contract hasn't even been discussed publicly except in a tangential way by other people. It's never been mentioned by the chair. There was also the Bong Heritage Center is trying to get pieces of the wreckage of the Bong's airplane back from Papua New Guinea. There was a presentation on that. You wouldn't know it from listening to the chair's presentation here. Why are we not being apprised of what's going on in this committee? I don't even understand why the secrecy. Why not just say $1.3 million contract? They did a good job. We hired them again. Good job for us. Why the secrecy? And it even extends to the Charlie Barron's contract. That hasn't even, I'm sure everybody's heard through the grapevine that he backed out of it, but you wouldn't know it from listening to the chair. She hasn't even brought it up to the Tourism Development Commission itself. And the mayor told me that the administration removed that contract off of the agenda packet. And it's true, it's gone. Sure, you can file a public records request and watch them sit on it for several weeks. Thank you, Becky. But that's not transparency. And if they're talking about transparency, I think they should walk the walk. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment? Hearing none, we have no further business and are adjourned. Good evening.